I want to talk about director Uwe Boll. Director Uwe Boll, I believe, is a misunderstood person and a misunderstood filmmaker. He is the director of many video game movies you might have heard of. He's also the subject of what I think is a fantastic documentary that will get you into the mind of Uwe. It's called Fuck You All, the Uwe Boll Story. It is a warts and all telling of Uwe's journey as a filmmaker who, in the telling of this documentary, which was released in 2018, he quit the movie business to become a successful restaurateur. I'm sure you're familiar with a bunch of his films. One of my personal favorites is Postal, which gives no fucks. That's what I love about the movie. And this is pre-cancel culture. If the movie Postal was released today, they would try to cancel Uwe Boll. And what I love about him is he is uncancelable. And he is a person who doesn't care about his critics to the point where he will beat his critics up in the ring. And a lot of movie critics, Alan, we should find some of that footage of Uwe Boll.
I've got one up here.
Okay, cool. We're going to show it later because I want to get Uwe's reaction to it. I take Uwe Boll's films for what they are. They are fun exploitation movies. He's trying to entertain you. I believe he is thinking about the audience. And I've always admired a filmmaker that doesn't give a shit. Please welcome to the show, director Uwe Boll. Uwe, thank you so much for joining us. We're fans. We are fans of you, sir.
I heard it. Good. that you like Postal. It's also my favorite film because it's something you can watch over and over again, and you have a lot of fun watching it, right? So I mean, it's and I agree with you. A film like this would be like nobody would ever work again who would be in that film, and including myself. So, but I think actually it would need a new Postal. I always make the proposal, let's do Postal 2. And it's tough to do because, of course, now everybody is scared to even go so far with the humor, So, and it's a downfall. I think really comedies don't exist. I think even Hangover would not get made anymore. So, I mean, that is a big problem, So, and I love comedies and would love to have more of political incorrect comedies. I recently watched again like the airplane movies, like the crazy rides in air. I love that films and like Naked Gun and stuff like this. And it looks like it's all over because everybody's so scared shitless they could say or show something wrong or what people would offend. And good comedy should offend everybody.
Do you think you could personally remake Postal, or do you think like you'd have to water it down so much that it's just not that the heart is gutted out of it?
Yeah, I would not do it in a harmless way. I've wrote over the years ideas down, and they're totally incorrect, of course. But whatever, like George Floyd, you do the whole situation again, and he's just not dying after 3 hours. So I mean, it's like people would completely flip out about it. But I think it would be actually funny. But that is the thing. It's like you need to go to the extreme so that you feel free, right? So it's this kind of when I run around with Postal. In the few theaters, remember, there were like 1,000 theaters scheduled and then 10 showed it. They all canceled it, even at that point, because of the September 11th stuff in the beginning. And I went to the screenings and a lot of film festivals played it. And I said, look, it's no race, no religion, no nation. That is the spirit Postal is made. It's behind that. It's like, it's this kind of like, you don't have to be scared what skin tone you have, what nationality you come from. humor brings us all together, and it's but this kind of like entitlement, kind of crazy fear what came out in the last few years is just, it went over the top. It went over the top.
I think actually Postal was way ahead of its time. And I believe I saw a screening. It was at the ArcLight Cinemas, which is since closed, and you were there for a Q&A. It was fantastic. And in your incredible accent at the end of the Q&A, I recall you saying to the audience, hello, any final solutions? And I think you meant final questions.
Yeah.
But hearing you say it with your accent, I thought you got a big laugh out of me. I don't know if you meant that on purpose, but I think Postal was just ahead of its time. It was way ahead of its time in its humor.
I agree. It aged well, right? So I did 34 films, and when I go to like a convention or I go somewhere, you can say 50% of the DVDs I have to sign are Postal. 50%. And all the other 33 films doing the other 50%. And there were, of course, a lot of other films that were in a way more successful financially as Postal. But I think everybody watched it. You know, I don't know how, and then maybe never got money for it, and it was for free on Amazon Prime or whatever. But I met, like, look, I did a film in New York right now, and my editor, like Ethan Manikis, he did all the Robert Rodriguez films, like from Dusk Till Dawn, whatever. And I met him last year, first time in November, and he came. I didn't know who he was, and then he said, "I love Postal." He said, like, "I love that film," and that is like a little moment. But you think, okay, so Postal went around, like people also in the film industry or whatever, they watched it, they're aware of the film, and but it never got any real, let's say, wide credit. You know, as one of the most political incorrect satires maybe in film history, to be honest. I'm a big film buff too. I watch everything, and I never saw a film like Postal before or after. And that was the whole point, you know, doing something what goes above this, what other people would dare to do. And I would love to do like a Postal Netflix TV series or something and really go for it. There's so much stuff happened in the last 10 years. It's just insane. We're living in a better world for a movie like Postal in a way, as it was the time when I did the film.
Did you have trouble casting that film? I mean, it felt like it was controversial even making it at the time. And you got some pretty big names in that film as well.
Yeah, I was surprised that we did the casting in LA, and even for the casting, a lot of people came with real names, you know, where you feel like Seymour Cassell, J.K. Simmons, you know, like we had Vern Troyer and whatever, Zach Ward, there were Michael Huddleston, the Big Lebowski. So there were a lot of small parts, like not with superstars, but with names everybody knows. And Dave Foley, you know, everybody knows that people, and they loved it. They went all in, and they said, no, I love it. When I read it, they said, I want to be in it. And I think that changed too. You know, I think, unfortunately, the agents now have more control about the actors in a way, you know, and they would never put them in a film like this, what is a big mistake from what I feel, you know. So I think it's, as an actor, you have maybe Nicolas Cage would play Postal too, you know, because he's not scared, you know, at least that is why I love Nicolas Cage, you know. It's because it's just like this kind of the craziness is in him, and he just goes for it, whatever it is, whatever part it is. But a lot of actors are not like this. I think there are a lot of actors now, they're all planning out their career and thinking, if I do this, then I could get this and whatever. I want to be in a Star Wars film and make $25 million in the end. So,
well, Uwe, I think we need you in Hollywood more than any other time. This town is scared. And the thing I've always admired about you is you're fearless. You don't give a fuck what other people think. but you're also not afraid to even go after your critics. I want to ask you about, we got some video to show. I don't know if everyone knows this story of when you challenged your critics, and I thought the critics were cruel in the sense that, did they understand the even exploitation movie genre, which is a legitimate genre that I personally love. I love Italian exploitation movies. I love Charlie Band films and Lloyd Kaufman from Troma Films. And I feel like you kind of know what you're making with your movies. And I feel like a lot of sort of youngish critics just did not get what it is you were trying to do. Let's share a clip here. So what you did was how you handled this, and I love this. You challenged your critics, your movie critics, to get in the ring and fight you. Let's see. We've got some video here that we can show to show our audience. Can play the video, Alan.
I'm playing it right now.
Yeah. It's can you turn up the audio a little bit?
Oh, you want the audio? Okay.
Yeah.
Ooh,
And he oh my God.
one, that's for sure.
Oh my God.
Oh, Jeff
Yeah, there
Snyder
were
might be
4
giving
guys.
Uwe Boll a little run for his money.
And this Jeff Schneider, he was with the, I think he's with Variety or Hollywood Reporter or something now.
Why don't you play it without sound, Alan? Play it without sound.
I think Chris Alexander stands a bit of a chance here, to be honest with you. He
Okay,
looks
yeah.
a little bit.
Yeah. Just play it. Oh, that's great. So what happened? Here's the thing. You trained. Some of these guys were like, it's a goof. It's just for fun, whatever. They got in the ring and you decimated everyone. One guy, I mean, I've seen other footage of it. It's fantastic. It's so great. What was the story behind that?
Yeah, it was like when Bloodrayne came,
Mhm.
I basically got exactly the same review as I got for Alone in the Dark or House of the Dead. And I felt like, okay, guys, did you actually watch my films? I mean, it's just like Uwe Boll makes a film, and they all have, every article till today starts with, he won the Golden Raspberry. What is a joke, because I won it for Postal, and I think Postal is a masterpiece and should not be nominated for a Raspberry. You know, if I would want it for Alone in the Dark, I would understand it in a way. But Postal is not the worst film of the year whatsoever. So, and I felt like, okay, you know what? If you judge me like this, if you even don't watch the films at all and you just write the same review, but you just exchange the title, then I want to fight you. I want to destroy you because you tried to destroy me. And that was like how I put it out there. And then these 4 guys signed up, and we did a whole thing in the Plaza of Nations in Vancouver. Michael Paré was the ring announcer. There were a lot of people we were shooting at that time, maybe In the Name of the King or something. Kristanna Loken was there. I don't think even Jason Statham was there. So so we had a full house, and then we did the boxing. And then most of them were fine after I talked to them and everything, and they changed their opinion even about me a little more after we had like the next day, like a real talk. But one of them said like, I promised not to hit them, but that is bullshit. You know, it was crystal clear it will be a real fight. They got all the mouthpiece, they got the helmet on. They were a day or 3 days before there, even 3 days before there, and they went to a training gym, and they had a doctor check them out, so they were aware it's not bullshit. It's like it will be a real fight. And but they were not prepared. I boxed when I was younger, so I know I can survive, right? So I know whoever comes, and I never saw these guys before, so I had no clue how tall they were, how heavy they were before they arrived in Vancouver. And and then I trained for it, so that at least I was cardio-wise, like my condition was good, because beating up 4 people in a row is also hard, to be honest. It's like you get tired too. So yeah.
We've got a lot of the chat is on fire, by the way, for you. Would you mind taking a bunch of questions and comments from our audience?
Yeah,
We've got like over 400 people watching live right now. So let's see. The Jedster says legend. John Manalang says, Mr. Boll, it is an honor and privilege to be able to thank you for your video game movies. My friends and I had the best times at the theater with your films. Hail Uwe Boll. And Killick69 says the Postal games are still popular. So
Yes.
there you
They
go.
just came out with a new one, and there will be also a documentary. They interviewed me also, and some of our actors. There will be a documentary coming about like 20 years of Postal, the game, and we of course are part of it with the film.
Navy Lack says Uwe the master ranter. And question here from Solomon Thornton asks, comedy is all about making fun of society and yourself. I was taught to never make fun of yourself. Do you have any advice for filmmaking?
No, I think you should make fun of yourself too. I mean, you need to basically be able to make a fool out of yourself too. I think it's very important to not take yourself too serious, you know. But advice of filmmaking, it's very tough. I mean, the only thing I can say is it got way cheaper to make films now. You can shoot it on a cell phone in 5K and have something everybody could show, you know. So it's not so expensive anymore with 35mm and everything. That helps. But we're also living in an invasion of little filmmakers who put their stuff up every day on YouTube and TikTok and so on. And so it's tough now to find coming into the film industry. You know, it's not so easy, I think. And now, of course, we have all the streamer. When I said 2016 after Rampage 3, I'm done, I'm not doing it anymore, that was after Blockbuster went bust, basically, and it was kind of over. You know, my films sold very good on DVD, Blu-ray, and so on worldwide. And I saw that business dying. And at that point, it was not visible how strong the streamers will go. Like, and now the streamers are everywhere. And I think that was one of the reasons for me to say I want to make movies again. I missed it really a lot, and I felt the whole time, fuck, I'm too young to stop making films, so I want to make films. And then with the streamers now, I felt let's go back into the business. But I faced problems. You know, I went to Netflix and so on. They bought a lot of my films, but they don't give me the money to make a film.
More comments here from
financially, of course. Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt you. It's just the chat. People really want to. Theoden King of Brohan says comedy is a challenge or critique of society. The authoritarians don't like that. And Brock Samsonite says if comedy offends you, it's because you relate to it and you're uncomfortable with the truth it's trying to teach you. And Jericho Leon says we need Uwe Boll movies now more than ever. And John Manalang says Postal was certainly way ahead of its time. And then a question here, Imperfect asks, how does Uwe feel about Paul W.S. Anderson?
I mean, he is more like, I think I have a different kind of approach to films in general. I did video game based films, but I did also a lot of original films and a lot of films not necessarily science fiction and this kind of genre, you know. And from this point of view, I don't want to compare me. He made some big successes too, but similar to like Michael Bay and so on, I'm not the biggest fan of this kind of directors. Let's say it this way, right? So, yeah, basically.
Graham Robbins says Rampage is colossally underrated. And then CP Kearney for $4.99 says we wouldn't have Mario without Boll's game adaptations. And then Kronos Goodwisen says, what would Uwe Boll's version of Super Mario Brothers movie have looked like?
I don't know, R-rated.
How do you do R-rated Mario?
No, I know I would not do that. But it's also interesting that this week was that big article, I think in the Hollywood Reporter on Variety, about video games are the new comic books, you know, like and I twittered, did you talk 20 years ago with me about a new idea, you know? I mean, even when I started, there was Wing Commander, Street Fighter before me. You know, so, and then I started making a lot of that films. That is the reason I got so much, I think, trashed in public and from the reviewers, because they don't like this kind of films. Yeah. You know, so they are not fans of this kind of content. And then whatever I did after, from Postal and so on, with Rampage, for example, Assault on Wall Street, Dafur, like other films, I never had the feeling they actually get over it. They always started with Alone in the Dark and Tara Reid was horrible, whatever, you know, but they never in a way gave that other films a real view or a real shot. But the fans did. I always said to a lot of people when they interviewed me, whatever, I said, look, go on Amazon, go on Postal, go on Rampage, and look at the commentaries after under the film, you know, and these people watched the films, and it's a lot of times the opposite to the IMDb rating. You know, what comes on Rotten Tomatoes, what money comes from professional film critics. I think a lot of that ratings, they didn't even watch the films, but the people watched it. And I think Rampage, similar to Postal, is maybe my, with Postal, these are my most important films I did, because they're really reflecting like a society in a way, you know. And I think Rampage is the bad brother from Postal in a way, that it's very violent and bitter, but at the same time also kind of a satire.
Yeah, I just watched Rampage last night. What was the reception you got when that movie first came out? And do you think it would have been different had it come out today?
No, from the fans, or also genre fans, they loved it from the beginning on. They were like, "Oh my god, wow!" Yeah. So, and because it's a movie, I love films, and I like it that you said in the beginning, like, I don't want to make boring films. I think the biggest job for a filmmaker is to not bore the audience. And a lot of times, I unfortunately have that with other films I'm watching, you know, where you sit there and you think like, I mean, what the fuck? It's good acting, The Year of the Dog or whatever with Benedict Cumberbatch, whatever. It gets, you know, like everybody flips out about it. Or all that Oscar-nominated films like Coda, Minari, all that films, you watch that stuff and you think like, no, they're good films in a way, but I give a shit and I'm not engaged, and I'm bored and checking my emails the whole time, you know. And that is the thing. And I try to make films, they definitely don't bore you, and that you also don't know necessarily how they turn, what type, that you don't know from like the first scene on how that film will end. And I think that is important for me, at least as a filmmaker, but also as a just film fan. So, you know, and Rampage got actually also the best reviews from the real reviewers, let's say, from all of my films, because they had to, like, I got in Germany last year, like a big article in the Welt. It's like basically similar to the Washington Post. Like it's a real big newspaper in Germany. And the guy wrote a whole page about me, and he said during the COVID pandemic, he watched all my films. And as recently wrote that big write-up, and then he said in an article, he said Rampage is for him a masterpiece, you know. And he said that is just hands down one of the most influential films he watched in his his life. And I think because it is so ruthless, it is so cynical as the world we're living in, you know, where you have like whatever, a war in Africa and everybody gets hacked into pieces, like the Dafur thing where I made a film about, you know, where 500,000 people got really killed with machetes and stuff, and nobody gave a shit because nobody gives a shit about the Sudan. But then when the Ukraine gets attacked by Russia, we basically have to flood them with weapons, and we have the glorious fight for freedom and all that moral stuff what we put on situations is so fake, and only if it fits economically and political, we play the moral thing, right? And then, but when we don't care because we cannot make any money, we just let everybody die. And that is the thing. It's and I think in Rampage, it's so absurd because he's basically going on a rampage and basically annihilating the whole city, but it's only about the money. it's the perfect cover-up for the bank robbery he did, and even counterfeit the money and acts like, oh, I don't give a shit about the money, I burn it all. But in reality, he has the money and walks away, and nobody will investigate the bank robbery after you killed like 250 people. So and I think that for me was the kicker why I wrote it this way, that it's like the greed is steering us. In society and so on. And I think that was for me the reason to tell it like this.
More comments and questions here from our audience. Sir Switch Crookington says Far Cry was hilarious. Rampage and Postal were decent too.
Good.
And my Greasy Guido says, my friends and I love how chilling the Rampage trilogy is. Did you plan to make 3 of them from the beginning?
No. It was really like this, like after Rampage turned into a very good like the reception was good for Rampage worldwide, and it was really sold in 100 countries. And then I felt, what would Bill Williamson do now after the money? Like, he got the money, now he had to run away because at one point they would otherwise catch him, so he had to go underground. And what would happen to him in 2-3 years later? And that is why it came to Rampage 2 and then to Rampage 3 to finish up the story. You cannot have him get away. A lot of people were very disappointed that Bill Williamson dies in part 3, but I felt like you cannot get somebody getting away forever with something like this. It would be highly unlikely that he can cheat the system 3 times. So I think it was more a realistic ending. And then I got tons of emails, have Bill Williamson's son coming because he has a little baby in the part 3. And I said, yeah, in 17 years we do part 4. When he grew up.
Yeah. Matthew Hammond for 2 says, could we get a movie about reality show cooking? People are asking about your restaurant career. And then someone goes on to say, Uwe, are you going to make movies again? Are you pivoting from restaurant business to back to the movie business?
Yeah, so I just shot a film in New York. So First Shift is a police film where basically we have Gino Pesi, the actor. He played with Jennifer Lopez in the TV show. He was her love interest, and what was it, Shades of Blue. So with Ray Liotta, and he was the lover and state attorney. So he played with he plays a cop who basically works alone, and then they bring Kristen Renton in, who was in like Sons of Anarchy and a lot of other things, as the new partner, and he doesn't want her. So the classical cop situation basically, but they have to now drive together in the first shift, and in that 12 hours of the first shift they do together, mostly Brooklyn, Long Island, Queens, and so on, they getting from like heartbreaking situations to real in deep shit. And that is the film. And I've wrote it, we shot it in New York. That is basically the comeback. I have a few more projects in the development, and I'm looking for the right actors. So you need the actors to sell the film. And we had in First Shift is more like an ensemble. So I was happy to have like people like Daniel Soli, and for example, he was in The Deuce. The bad guy was James Franco. He was the mafia guy. Gary Pastore was also in The Deuce, and The Irishman. And so we had a lot of like this kind of mafia guys in it. People know James McMillan from Orange is the New Black, Brandy Bravo. So I think we had a very good cast together, but more like an ensemble cast without big stars. But I think believable cast, and I'm happy with the film. And I have Ethan Manikis, the guy from Sin City and so on. So he will edit it in LA. So, I mean, that will be the first one, and I hope I can do a few more. But of course, I'm also this kind of, I cannot just shoot and pay it all myself. So I need partners, and I need hopefully streamers, they believe in me. I just need one or two good people from the streamers who are Boll fans, who love Rampage or who love Postal or South on Wall Street, and say, look, why we don't give this guy 10 million and he makes a film for us. I mean, that is what I hope we can pull off in the next 12 months for another one.
Some other comments here. Navy lacks two for 20 Danish krona says Uwe Boll is your 70s director. We were having a discussion earlier about great films being made in the 70s and how they don't make them anymore. And so that's a comment on our earlier discussion. Gabriella Condor sends in 20 euros. Thank you for that. And then a question here from possibly someone who wants to step in the ring and fight you. Mike MC Wong asks, how do you manage to get people to fund your movies? They do not perform well and routinely get awful reviews, but you kept securing necessary funding.
Yeah, it's strange. No? So somebody is then not right. When they always say they don't perform well, it's just not true. Right? But you know what? A lot of times, this kind of the Hollywood Reporter and this kind of magazines, they look only into the box office. And say, whatever, the film cost 10 million and made 5 million box office, as an example, it's a flop. But it's just not true. When you do then 20 million in DVD sales, or, like stuff like this, and a lot of foreign sales to everywhere from Brazil to Japan, you still can recoup money. And it's true that In the Name of the King was in US a box office flop. I totally agree, but it was also not the whole advertising was not really strong, But I think Fox made 45 million in DVD sales, So, and I mean, that is the thing, and I think a lot of people should look a little deeper into how films can recoup money, even if the box office was not so strong. And you have to see also, they were not so expensive. Like Alone in the Dark, Bloodrayne, Postal, House of the Dead, Far Cry. These are all films in that $10 to $30 million level, and not like they spend crazy amounts of money now for even streaming films, where they spend $160 million for a film who's 2 weeks on a streaming channel and then disappears forever and doesn't really make any revenues. So, and what I feel also interesting to see is when they all said, for example, House of the Dead made 11 million box office in US, or Alone in the Dark made like 6 million box office in US. And they're all like, oh, the Armageddon, the worst results ever. But years later, I can show you 150 films. They completely tanked. They make $2 million box office, and they had superstars and were 80 million to make. So it's not like I was the only one where film tanks. There are a lot of people, they tanked a lot of money with films that were way more expensive. Yeah.
Matthew Hammond for 2 asks, can Uwe Boll tell us how he got into filmmaking? I mean, I would recommend watching the documentary because it's such a great, that Fuck You All documentary about you is fantastic. And kudos to you for being a part of that documentary. It's really fascinating. But how to answer Matthew Hammond's question?
I think everybody has their own biography, how you get into film. I was not connected to the film industry. I just loved films and shot on Super 8mm stuff. And then I was lucky that Frank Lustig, the partner from me, where started loving films and making films together with, because with two, you're stronger. If I would be alone and Frank Lustig would never existed, who knows what I would did. But then we were faced to, okay, now we're over 20. So are we trying to make a film, or are we now teachers or journalists or something? And that question came up. And then we were lucky doing German fright movie. What was the first film? It was like Kentucky Fried Movie in Germany, where I was a big fan of, like a ruthless comedy, and and that totally worked. I mean, we released it. It had good appearance in the movie theaters, and then a big company bought it from us, and they gave us the money for a second film, and that is how it started. So I think in the very end, you need luck, but you need also like this persistence. Like you have to keep going and you have to hustle your way into it. And of course, the first 1 or 2 films you do, it's you call in all kind of favors. You don't want to pay anybody, like find the actor, say, please play that one part for free and stuff like this. So if you're not willing to do this, you also will not succeed making films.
Yeah. Patrick Lemire says the film industry killing physical media for streaming will be looked back as a tremendous error.
100%.
Yeah.
And I'm still, that in Germany, the DVD and Blu-ray business is still strong. It's because people love the director's commentaries or they love the making ofs and they want to have a physically ownership of it.
Mm-hmm.
And me too. I mean, the people love always my director's commentaries on the DVDs,
Yes.
And that is the thing where I feel it's so ridiculous that now you do a film, it gets streamed, and that was it. And I think you revisit films. I'm happy in LA right now. Louis Justin from he has his own label, so they do 4K new versions of my films. So they went in the negatives in the 35mm material because a lot of my films were just HD, and now we're getting also Postal done right now as a new 4K version. And I hope that Annie will release that on Blu-ray new. I will do new commentaries also, like 15 years later, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm looking forward to do that. I love to own physically a film, so it's good to have the streamers. I'm not against the streamers. It's good to have it and to have a lot of like the classics you can just like find on Paramount Plus now. If you want to watch The Godfather, boom, it's there, right? So, but I still think to get completely rid of it, it's a big mistake. And we saw it with the LPs, with the records, the music. Right? They're coming back. I still have my torrents a player here with all the old stuff. I always kept it.
Yeah. Question here, and I'll say this: I think any movie that goes direct to streaming inherently has less value. It just feels less special than a movie that's in theaters. And then the shrinking that release window to where it's available in the home, I think, has diminished the value of movies overall. It's unfortunate. A question here from Aaron Taylor. Is there any particular actor that you'd like to work with?
Oh, there's a long list, So, no, I would love to do like a film with like the old guys, like Arnold Schwarzenegger, Sylvester Stallone, Mel Gibson, whatever, like all them together in the film. I would love to do this. And I mean, there are a lot of good new actors out there. And I would love to do a film with Ryan Reynolds, and maybe not a typical Ryan Reynolds film, to put him back in, not in the coffin, how he was in that one film where he played, but he did some more drama earlier on. Now he's a billionaire, maybe doesn't want to do it, but maybe, to do some films, they're not only showing this kind of what they are famous for. Yeah. So, and that would be great.
Well, Uwe, I want to thank you for being on the Film Threat Livecast today. It's an honor to talk to you, and I'm excited to hear that you're coming back. I really believe that more than ever now, we need a raunchy, raw, unafraid, fearless comedy. And your films, more than ever, is what the industry needs. The industry needs an enema, and you need to clean out the shit to fix Hollywood. You could be the man to fix Hollywood. I truly believe that.
No, thank you. Very good. So yeah, put it out there. I'm ready to roll. So, and no, I think I thought about like if Postal would not go, we could do a California Fright movie.
Yeah.
I
would love it. I just think that because there's so much fear, Hollywood is driven by fear. Hollywood is driven by I'm too afraid, or we can't say this. Even the way actors and filmmakers speak to the media, they're afraid to say certain things that I think are just truths. And that's what I've always admired about you. We've got like maybe time for one more comment.
Yeah, I have 5 minutes more, don't worry. But
let's do it.
Let me say something about what you just said. And I think that is really important. Like I'm a very fact-driven person and realist, right? So, and what I don't like right now is this, you are this, and if you don't agree with it, you are like whatever, a flat earther.
Yeah.
You know, and take the COVID situation. I had so much, I'm 3 times vaccinated and everything, right? So, but I corrected my opinion about the whole situation with the facts coming over time on the table, right? And even a good, like, I'm in the city Mainz in Germany where BioNTech made the vaccine, what Pfizer then distributed worldwide. So, and I know a guy working at BioNTech, and I told him, like, I was all over the best thing for the COVID thing, because in the beginning we were all scared we all die of it. Is of course the vaccine, and it was the right decision. It was the right decision to get vaccinated. But then when it turned out that the vaccine is only holding up for 3 months, and that it's not really stopping that you still infect other people, then a lot of, let's say, flavor of that vaccine went downhill, and I felt like, what the fuck? I mean, I'm not going every 3 months to a vaccination now, so that is the thing. But I recognized, I had friends, they were like, I never get the vaccine, they chip me, like that it's all like Bill Gates has me under control. So you have the total crazy like conspiracy theorists, and then you have the people, they still going every 3 months to a vaccine, even now where it's not really more as a flu anymore if you get it, right? So, and that is the thing. It's like, and I'm basically in a lot of things in the middle and just go with the facts. In the beginning, I think the lockdown was absolutely necessary, but in retrospective, a lot of things were maybe a little too much, because after the fact, you know it better. And then you should also correct your opinion about things. And you should say, look, that was maybe New York shut down for 2 years. Everybody got depressed and killed each other. And, in Miami, everybody was at the beach at the same time and gave a shit. And in the end, the death toll was the same. So, and that is the thing. It's like, there is only one subject matter, but a lot of things also in politics, I think it's worse to reach over the aisle and to see sometimes, like, also Republicans can be right on some stuff, and Democrats are mostly right. I'm more, of course, a Democrat as a Republican in my brain. Yeah. So, but they also do stuff where you think, like, what the fuck? I mean, especially when it comes to the political correctness and the Vogue saying, and you cannot do this, you cannot do that, and whatever, you Twitter 20 years ago something, and now you get canceled for the rest of your life like you're Adolf Hitler. I mean, that is bullshit. That is just total bullshit, and it has to stop.
Well, I'll say that what you just talked about would make a great subject for a comedy. I think it's because it's in the zeitgeist. People would respond. Matthew Hammond for 2 says Uwe Boll needs to come back on Film Threat. And the Joker has a question here. I lived in Europe for a couple of years and loved people's blunt honesty. I believe it's necessary here in the USA more than ever. Is that a natural process in your films or thought about? I mean, I've never known you to be less than blunt. You're always bluntly giving your opinion, and that's why I've always appreciated you. And I don't think that other film critics they didn't understand you, is what it is. And they were way too elitist in how they saw the films you were trying to make. And I think they missed the humor. So, but what's your thoughts on that?
No, I totally agree. And my wife is from Canada, right? And she always says, don't do it, don't say it. And I just cannot hold it in. And it's like, but I was always like this. I get the best along with myself in just not acting up, in just being how I am, and I think I will not now change anymore my personality profile, but for example, all the actors I worked with, and you can really ask from Ron Perlman to everybody, like they all like to work with me, because in the very end, I'm happy to be on a film set. For me to be finally on a film set and to shoot the film is the payoff of all the work you do before to get the film financed and to get it done, and then when you're on set to working with the actors is what is really, for me, the more relaxing part. For other directors, they are nerve-wracked at the production. I'm always super relaxed at the production because I do exactly what I like to do, working with actors and the camera and telling a story. So, and that is, we had a running gag in The Name of the King with Claire Fulani and Jason Statham, that after every take, when they looked at me, how I liked it, I always said, I want my money back. From them, the money they got for the film, right? So they were laughing their ass off every single time. So no, but I think that is the thing. I think humor is enormously important, and you have to feel, safe with the humor. And I think that is what that line, what we have to get back. We are not like. Like there are people that are evil and did evil things, like Harvey Weinstein and whatsoever, right? And they should rot in jail. But you cannot, only because somebody has a different opinion or makes a harsh joke about whatever, right? You have no right to try to bring that person out of business. And that is exactly what's happening now, that they rotting together to bring people out of business. And that I will never be part of this. And I think it's ridiculous. But I understand a lot of people are, in a way, pussies, and they like totally saying then in Chinese, like John Cena in Chinese, I'm so sorry to the Chinese because it's an important market. That is, for me, laughable. That I would never do this. I would more doubling down than on it.
Well, you need to make a cancel culture comedy, because I think it's so in the zeitgeist right now. If you made a film that was a comedy about cancel culture, I feel like that would be huge at the box office. And John Manalang says, God bless you, Uwe.
Thank you.
So I know we've kept you over time. I want to thank you. Will you please come back when your movie comes out, when your new movie comes out? Okay, great.
Absolutely.
We'll have you back.
Yeah, the first teaser we sent to you. Okay.
Okay, great. Thank you. And then follow Uwe Boll you're on Twitter, right? You're on Twitter?
Yes. Yeah, Uwe Boll 7 on Twitter. And I'm on Facebook too with Bush and Bin Laden on the photo. From
That's great.
Because there are a lot of people, they're not me, right? They say they're Uwe Boll, whatever, but if you find me on Facebook like this and Twitter, it works.
Thank you, Uwe. We look forward to seeing your film, and we'll talk to you when it's out and available in release, and everyone in our audience can check it out. Thanks again. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.